And now the next stage of that is going to be a workforce with a digital AI coworker. I mean, we're gonna have to think about what that means for the company's virtual escape room.
Well, hey there, and welcome to a brand new episode of Delivering Marketing Joy. I am your host, Kirby Hassman, and joining me today is a brand new rock star. I always love it when I get to talk to new rock stars. He's the co-founder and CTO of Smith, which is at the forefront of revolutionizing artificial intelligence systems. He's co-founded and sold multiple large marketing agencies and is a thought leader in both SEO and AI. Alexander DeRitter, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm excited to dive in. So speaking of being excited, I want to ask you what you're excited about. What's a project that you're working on right now that has you totally fired up, and why?
Well, it has to be Smith OS, and it's exciting to me because I believe it will change how we work and how we collaborate. And I believe that the future of work is blended teams. We went through the transition from being all in the office to like part hybrid teams with remote workers. We went to a transition from all local people to a global workforce, and we have colleagues from every country, right? And now the next stage of that is going to be a workforce with a digital AI coworker. I mean, we're gonna have to think about what that means for the company's virtual escape room.
Yeah, that is it is funny how it probably, in the world of AI, it's not been fast, but for someone sort of who doesn't live in that space, it feels like it's escalated from 0 to 60 really quickly. And the idea of having an AI coworker that's a new one. That's a new one.
So the current set of AIs is very monolithic and it's just focused on a large model. But the thing is, the larger these models get, the more expensive they become to run. And they also become very hard to control, right? We've all seen the movies. So what you really want is very small purpose driven AI, but that know how to collaborate and work together. Like one knows how to print paper, one knows how to redline and review it, and another knows how to look at it and flag any potential legal issues, right? And by combining them and knowing how to work together, you can have small, economically efficient models that adhere to your security policy, but they're also completely constrained by what they're allowed to do. Like, I'm not worried about my robot vacuum turning Terminator on me, right? It is very, very specific in what it can do. So we have full alignment, we have full control over it. But at the same time, by combining a set of skills and adding a skill like Neo in the Matrix, I know Kung Fu, you can build incredible workflow automations. And that is going to change the landscape of our workflows or process automation and how efficient we can get as a business. By the end of the decade, there will be $1 trillion company on the stock market that is run by 3 people.
So,
and of course, Smith.
Yeah, of course, right. So, I'm fascinated by this, Alexander. So I'm curious. I mean, are people building this now, or as you said, like, is this a decade away?
I'll tell you something, right? And this is coming from somebody who lives and breathes in the AI space, knows every new thing that came out this morning that was announced. Okay. I feel like if progress would stop, it would just freeze. No new AIs get released. We would have enough to commercialize and change the world completely over the next 15 years. There's so much untapped application out there for the existing technology. You wouldn't even recognize the world 10, 15 years from now. But not only that, the root technology itself is exponentially increasing in capability. And for your listeners out there, just who are curious, maybe you were impressed with what ChatGPT can do, right? Maybe you thought, hey, I would never see that in my lifetime, right? If that was impressive to you, 2 years from now, that will look like toddlers barely learning how to walk. Think about the alpha models from DeepMind that beat the world's chess players, Go players, StarCraft players, knew how to fold protein and think like a master general, super elite thinking, strategic thinking. You combine that and marry it to ChatGPT, and look what that baby's going to be like. That is what is going to be done with training this year. And by the end of the year, these things will be available to the large companies like OpenAI, Microsoft, Google, not necessarily available in your hands yet. But even the CEO of Anthropic, which is a good player, they make Claude as a popular chat program as well. But a smaller player than Microsoft and Google, right? Sure. They said today, I saw an interview where he says artificial general intelligence 2 years away. And that is not the big companies. I believe that in the labs, in the research labs, we achieve a artificial super intelligence this year in the labs, right? Wow. But even if that was not true, I have seen so much with the existing technology that if it was fully applied and made its way down the work and everything, right, the world would completely change in the next 10 years, unrecognizably.
Wow. Well, I guess that switches my gears a little bit to say, obviously this is a marketing entrepreneur podcast. So what are some mistakes, I guess, that you see organizations making when doing their marketing or telling their story, and how do you think they could fix them?
Okay, so we're in a special time in marketing where the technology that right now can power you to get insane growth will, in the second effect of order of impact, will also, I would say, maybe wipe out a lot of the ways that people are consuming content.
Okay.
So you can think about it like supply and demand of content. AI makes the content supply go up exponential. If you're an early adopter where the rest of the world is not caught up to it yet, it gives you a temporary advantage where you put out 100 times more content than your competitors. But then they also start doing that. And then in a few years later, the internet has an oversupply of content and nobody finds content anymore, right? So it's kind of like, we all like the Industrial Revolution because it gave us more comfort, but it's also polluting the planet. And so then we have to go and solve that another way. And the same is true for AI. Today, what companies need to do is definitely use AI to get that advantage. It's right there for the taking. If you're still manually doing a lot of these marketing processes, I mean, you're getting your dessert is eaten by a competition, right? You have to do something about it. But in the longer term, what you should be prioritizing is your brand, because after everything is said and done, consumers will have more sources and more data than they can handle. And you should ask the question, why would anyone 4 or 5 years from now, assuming the rate of progress in AI, why would anyone still care to get the news from you? And so that brand, building that brand, both as a company, as an individual, your individual brand matters a lot. Why would they trust you when they are asking about this topic? That is going to be the number one most important thing long-term that you need to invest in and that people are overlooking. And it's easy to get on the hype train of AI can create cheap, quick content. But you have to think also, how do I invest in my brand long-term so I become known and authoritative? And that is the most important thing that you can do for longevity in this market today.
That's good stuff. That's really good stuff. So what are some tips that you give? I mean, obviously you're running these organizations. What are some tips you give for growing both personally and or professionally?
Well, I would say that there's more to life than than work only. And
Yeah.
so the Romans said mens sana in corporem sanum. It's like a healthy mind and a healthy body.
Mm.
Um, I think it's something that you wake up to when you hit your 40s. And so my advice to anyone who's not there yet is just like don't burn the candle at both ends.
Mm.
Right? But then also thinking, and this is very important. If work was taken away from you in some way, would your value as a human be diminished?
Mm.
Right? And if you struggle with that question, maybe you don't have your priorities completely straight.
Mm.
And so I would say, in terms of growing personally, I would like to think that despite really loving what I do and being passionate about what I do, I like to grow not just on a professional front, but on the level of a human being,
Mm.
not in terms of chasing happiness, but in maximizing usefulness in society. And again, not just for selfish reasons, but also in terms of being good to other people around me and leaving them better than how I found them. So the world is going to change a lot. Even our economic system is going to change a lot. And so don't be caught in a future where your entire self-worth is defined by a material world, because materialism is going to get a big punch to the face in the next 2 decades.
Man, that is great. I really like that. I found myself applauding for a bunch of you just said there, Alexander. I really appreciate that. All right, man. Final question. Who are obviously you are excited about the work that you're doing, as you said, you're passionate about it, but who are some people that inspire you to be better, and how do they do that?
Yeah, so I thought this is probably like that's probably the most profound question.
Mm.
Um, but I will answer it in a bit different way.
Okay.
So I'm not going to name any names, but I'm going to talk about two groups of people that inspire me, and they're the children and they're the old people.
Okay. I like it.
And the children inspire me because um they're their authentic self, and when they speak, they are less concerned with pleasing everybody else at the expense of being their authentic self.
Mm-hmm.
And that inspires me, because at some point when we grow up, it is so easy to be so busy with work and so busy with responsibilities that we forget who we truly are. And we think about ourselves as children or hopes or aspirations. And somewhere along the way, we can risk losing some of that. Children inspire me because they remind me of finding that spark, that spark that starts it all. And why we even do this is for the future. And then older people inspire me because they have I believe when I speak to older people, and I'm speaking about 75, 80, 90 years old, people who really lived life and really have seen a lot. At the end of your life, you kind of come back to this moment of what really mattered versus what didn't really matter. And you kind of go back to that child mentality. But this time it comes with like lived experience. And so I think elderly people really inspire me when I see them getting up with great effort to make a journey to, for example, go to church or something, but they're there and maybe they took an hour to put their socks on, or they're gathering together less $10 and that's all they have in their budget, but they try to give a little gift to their little grandchild or something, and or try to pass on something of meaning. You see and even at your last moments, it's not, nobody at their deathbed is asking about their 401k, right?
Yeah.
They're looking about the impact they had on people, on family, on community, and there's different things that matter. So I think it's important to be passionate, but the people that inspire me are really the really young people and the really old people, because they are grounding my virtual reality of business and work and innovation into like firm soil and what like truly matters. And so I look up to them.
Dude, that's really good stuff, Alexander. I really appreciate it. Now, if somebody wants to find a little bit more information about you or Smith, where do they go?
All right, so on Smith, depending on when this airs, our website will be online. This is all very brand new tech, and in the meantime, I recommend, and that will be smithos.com, but it's not online yet. Maybe by the time this airs, it will be. But the best way would be just to look me up on LinkedIn and follow, right? Alexander de Ritter. My handle is ADRIDDER, AD Ritter. I'm also posting on Twitter. And so I post about AI, technology, marketing, and obviously work-related things like what we're releasing. So that's the best place to follow.
Perfect. Well, thanks so much. This has been a really insightful and fun conversation, Alexander. We'll have to do it again sometime, okay?
Thank you.
Well, yep, that's going to wrap up this edition of Delivering Marketing Joy. We'll see you next time. Marketing Joy.